Bryan worked as a police officer with connections to the Interpol division of the Hong Kong police force. He was a skilled detective, though always followed by dark rumors. Whilst investigating the drug trade, fellow Hong Kong Interpol detective Lei Wulong discovered that Bryan had connections with drug dealers. Bryan was killed in a shootout in Hong Kong, possibly by Lei. Bryan's corpse was transported to a laboratory belonging to Dr. Abel, a doctor willing to do anything to rival the creations of the genius scientist, Dr. Bosconovitch. Dr. Abel brought Bryan back to life through the use of cybernetic enhancements. To perfect him as a prototype for a cyborg army, Dr. Abel sent him off to steal data from Dr. Bosconovitch that would complete him. Bryan originally entered the third King of Iron Fist tournament under these auspices and targeted Yoshimitsu, a known acquaintance of Dr. Bosconovitch, in order to try and find the data he needed. Bryan appears to have been unable to get the data he needed from Yoshimitsu or Dr. Bosconovitch, and subsequently realized that his life was coming to an end. On returning to Dr. Abel, Bryan realized Abel had abandoned him and had taken up working for the Mishima Zaibatsu as its top scientific advisor. Dr. Abel no longer cared about what became of his obsolete cyborg creation. Bryan despised both Dr. Abel for abandoning him and Heihachi Mishima for taking Dr. Abel away from him. He entered the fourth Iron Fist tournament in order to take control of the Mishima Zaibatsu and get Dr. Abel to modify his body and prolong his life. Bryan's plans did not go as hoped, and he ended up attempting to raid the Mishima Zaibatsu by force. He was discovered injured in the Mishima Zaibatsu's vault by Yoshimitsu, who helped him escape. Bryan awoke in Dr. Bosconovitch's lab, where the doctor informed him he could upgrade his body. Bryan entrusted himself to the doctor, but on awaking, realized his body was the same as before. Dr. Bosconovitch explained he needed more time to fully understand Bryan's body, but that, in the meantime, he was able to fit him with a perpetual power generator as an emergency measure. That would extend his life. Bryan lashed out and attacked the doctor and killed the Manji clan members standing guard in the lab. Yoshimitsu had sworn vengeance on Bryan for attacking his rescuers and prevented Bryan from getting far in his attempts to test the power of his generator in the fifth tournament. In rage, Bryan began joining different battlefields, something that wasn't in short supply now that Jin Kazama had succeeded as head of the Zaibatsu and was now waging global warfare. At this time, Bryan ended up holed up in an abandoned mansion, an XG Corporation testing facility, with a host of escaped G-Corp human experiments. He claims he was using the position in order to bait in strong opponents to test himself against. Eventually boring of this, when Jin announced the sixth tournament, Bryan joined it, seeking a fight that would satisfy his appetite. The cancellation on the sixth tournament sent Bryan back into war zones, where he went on indiscriminate rampages. He ended up in a conflict zone in the USA, where a man named Bob confronted him in an effort to stop his trail of destruction. With the world turned upside down by the constant fighting, Bryan was in his element. So when a rotund, sluggish-looking man approached him amid the chaos, Bryan could only lick his lips in glee at the prospect of a new victim. Obtaining the perpetual generator, Bryan Fury became the ultimate replicant, using this endless source of energy to wreak havoc. Even after the battle between G-Corpanies and Mishima Zaibatsu concluded, Bryan continued waging acts of war around the globe and quickly became the target of international police organizations.